You're watching Hope TV Newswatch. Now, as earlier stated, tonight I'll be hosting the outgoing senior pastor of CITAM Ngong, that is Bishop Ken Kimiywe, who is transiting to overseas to continue his calling in ministry. Karibu sana Bishop to the studio.
Asante, my joy and pleasure.
All right. Yes. Now, before you tell us more about your transition, and for the sake of our viewers, please tell us about yourself. Who is Bishop Ken Kimiywe?
Bishop Ken Kimiywe is a simple guy. I'm married to Joy for the last 31 years. The Lord has blessed us with two lovely grown-up children now, John, Mark, and Wendy. I have a passion for ministry. I've been a pastor now for the last close to 30 years in CITAM. And I just want to thank God for the privilege and opportunity to minister to his people and to be part of the growth that CITAM has experienced over that 30 years.
All right, tell us more about your family.
My family, we as I said already, we are the four of us. I have a daughter who is grown up and working. She's employed and doing her own career in the banking sector. I also have a son who has trained as a creative, and he's also building up his own career and finding his own way. He's now a freelancer, but I'm hoping one of these days he can get into something more regular, something more constant. Yes.
The reason I've told you to tell us more about your family is because we see a lot of families struggling. And the question is, do pastors really struggle with their family and marriage?
Oh, yeah. You see, families are family, whether they are pastors' families or not pastors' families. We experience life like everybody else. If the shilling is going up, it's going up for both the families of pastors and non-family pastors. And so we find ourselves still able to struggle with the issues of school fees, or times also when it comes to communication in the home. Probably there are misunderstandings, raising up children, also trying to manage family affairs. I think these are things that any family goes through. And I want to suggest here that even the pastor's family has also its own seasons and experiences, just like every other. Yes.
You know, you're a role model to many people. And when people see you right now, they see you are self-made, you are all accomplished. But please tell us more about your journey to being the successful man of God that you are right now.
It's a journey that started way back. I must say, having been brought up in a Christian home, both my parents were Christians. They introduced me to the Christian faith at a very tender age. And so when I got to 13 years, I actually gave my life to the Lord. And I think giving my life to the Lord at that very tender age exposed me to a disciplined life, a life whereby, you know, I lived in a way that I didn't go to many excesses. So when I went to secondary school, I was exposed to the Christian Union, and I grew up in, you know, matters of faith, whether it is through the Bible study or fellowships or prayer meetings, rallies, conventions, weekend challenges. And then, of course, after that, I went to college to train as a teacher. And again, where I went to train, we had a very strong Christian union, and I found myself continuing to grow and develop myself as a believer. And I believe at some point, also, I got the call of God at some point when I was now a teacher. I left my teaching profession and went into full-time ministry.
That was in the year?
That was way back in 1994. 1994. Yes. I actually resigned from the Teachers Service Commission because I had felt the call of God over my life. And so I came to the senior pastor, who was then Reverend Dennis White, and he told me, you need to go to Bible college and train yourself and get yourself equipped for ministry. And that is where my journey really with CITAM began, because in 1994 is when we were also beginning or planting the church at CITAM Woodley. And I was part of that church plant. When I was in Bible college, I was working like an associate pastor at that particular branch church. Yes.
All right. And I'm aware that you are an author. And with you is your book.
Right. Right over here.
I actually recently launched it. What is the book about?
The book is about mentorship. One of my passions is mentorship. I like to work with young people, emerging leaders, grow them up and give them exposure And as a pastor over those 30 years or so, there are always young people around me. As I speak to you now in CITAM Ngong, I've been working closely with about 8 young people, both ladies and gentlemen, because I believe in promoting both gender. And opportunity to give young people that privilege of finding their own route in life and also finding their passion and getting direction in terms of their career growth and growing their capacity, because there are many of us who sometimes struggle trying to get our way in life, and we just need somebody to get our hand and to walk with us through. And found myself doing that, and that is why I've written this book, The Mentorship. And I've called it The Missing Gem, because again, many people don't understand who can mentor me, what are the qualities I should look out for.
Sure.
And also the mentees themselves also need to know, as I walk with this person, what are some of the pitfalls, what are some of the boundaries I should set around myself. And for the mentor, how do you walk with somebody who is looking up to you to learn something and to learn a skill, a virtue out of you?
Yeah.
And so I've tried in this book to bring out the understanding of the principles and the power of mentorship.
Where can one find the book if one wants to purchase
The
it?
books are available in CITAM Ngong. They are also available here at Valley Road. If you just come to Valley Road at the reception, they'll be able to get you a copy for those who come from within these environs. I've also got some copies at CITAM Buruburu, and then also some other copies at CITAM Thika Road.
Thika Road.
I'm also working, hopefully by tomorrow, we shall be on Amazon. And
Amazon.
so anybody can go online and get themselves a copy.
All right, great. Talking about mentorship, what's your perspective on Christian leadership?
Christian leadership, I look at it in 3 dimensions, in the sense that as we talk about Christian leadership or spiritual leadership, we should then look at Jesus Christ as our role model. And I see 3 perspectives of his type of leadership. Number 1 is the shepherd leadership, feeding the flock, guiding the flock, and protecting the flock. That is 1 dimension. And then the 2nd dimension I look at in terms of spiritual or Christian leadership is that one of a steward leader, one who is in charge and who protects what God has given to them as a steward, and being able to safeguard the particular sheep or people that are under him, and also being accountable not only to God, but to the people that you lead, because there are many leaders, again, who are Christian leaders, and they are not accountable to anybody.
Sure.
And then thirdly, I believe also another dimension is what I call servant leadership. And the best person who brought us out into understanding the concept and the role modeling of servant leadership is Jesus himself. When he washes the feet of the disciples and tells them, if you want to be the top guy, you be the least. And what do you do? Serve other people. And so I see Christian leadership from that dimension, the aspect of stewardship, the aspect of being a shepherd, and the aspect of being a servant leader.
A servant leader.
Yeah.
You've told me that you began your journey at CITAM in 1994.
Right.
If you are to rewind your time at CITAM, what do you think you will do differently?
Okay. I think what I would do differently, although I must say I don't want to pat myself on the back, I've done well, because I've literally grown up in the system, learning from other people, and also drawing resources from other ways of training. I would say one of the things that probably if I was given a second shot at is being able to equip myself earlier, in the sense that as you grow as a leader, one of the things you want to do is to grow your capacity, so that you are able then to guide others into places they have never been.
Sure.
And you need to have the competence of doing that. So the earlier you're able to train yourself and get yourself equipped, then you are able to work with other people, and also you're able to use every resource that is in you to add value to the ministry.
I'm sure there are many good memories that you've had while at CITAM. What is that? Just that one memorable moment that you've had?
Memories, I would say. I'm good in church planting, and every time I've done a church plant, and if I may reflect back, in 2006, the church asked me to go and do the church plant in Buruburu. And I'm telling you, I've never seen a church plant as effective and as productive as how we planted the church in Buruburu. From nothing, within a period of 2 months, we were clocking over 2,000 people plus, a full house. Again, it is a church that has continued to be very productive in terms of producing leaders who have become pastors in our ministry and even outside of CITAM. So I would say one of my highlights was
CITAM.
planting the church at CITAM.
Boroboro. Great. I'm sure many viewers want to know this. You say that you are relocating to overseas, but where are you going to?
Okay, although that's a personal question, but since we are public people, I would want to say as I leave CITAM, I go to Texas, Houston, Texas, in the United States. My wife and I are relocating. We sense at this point in our lives and in the season that we are in, we have done what we could have done within the scope of CITAM. And as I said earlier, we started right from the very beginning as intern pastors. We have served as pastor. We have served as senior pastor for the last 20 years or so. And of course, up to the point where I was the deputy bishop of Christ is Youngster Ministry. So we feel we have gotten to the place where our capacity has come to the place where we need to grow ourselves beyond CITAM and basically looking at the global outreach. So we are going to be using the United States as a launch pad to go to Asia, to go to Europe, Latin America, Australia, or whichever other opportunities that God will avail. And the beauty about it is that when you have an American passport, it's a passport that can take you to many places that a Kenyan passport would not be able to. So we are looking at ourselves as missionaries, people who can go out there and do the work of God. But the three things that I'm looking at doing and continuing to do is mentor young emerging leaders, work with people who are trying to find their way into leadership and into ministry. Secondly, also growing by way of retooling and also equipping, empowering church ministers who are out there and have never gone through Bible college. I would want to do more training for such people. And then thirdly, the other thing I also see my wife and I doing, because she's a counseling psychologist, we want to work with the families by way of coaching them and also doing marriage therapy.
I know many people would like to know, are you starting a church in the US? What exactly is it? Are you planting a church?
As I said, one of my passions is church planting. And definitely if that opportunity would avail itself, I don't mind doing that. But use that as a base for going out to do ministry. I don't want to see myself bogged down with running a church. I want to see myself being equipped and being enabled by my local church to go out there and do ministry across the globe.
Why did you choose the US in particular?
As I said, you have the US passport, you can move far and wide. I think the environment there also needs to be ministered to. As I go as a missionary. Many of these Western world countries, although they brought us the gospel, but you'll find that they have moved away from the gospel. And they have become very potential places for missions. So I see myself not going to the land of opportunities, but looking at the possibility of also reaching the people who brought us the gospel.
Because actually we've seen cases of LGBTQ getting into churches in the US.
Exactly. And many other things which are not just sitting very well in as far as the biblical faith is concerned.
Back in our country, there's been a call to regulate churches following the Shakahola massacre. I don't know, what's your take on that?
Shakahola, for every good thing, there's always a bad side of it. And I think what has happened is, although there is the true gospel that brings life and that gives hope to people, that transforms lives, on the other side, we know the enemy, who is the one who works against the things of God, is trying to sabotage by bringing in false doctrine, false teachings, cults, and heresies. And definitely for those who don't find themselves taken into the right path, they fall victim to these other types of faiths which are definitely detrimental. I would say like now that the regulation has come in, I think it would be right for the church to regulate itself
Yeah.
and ask and audit itself in terms of who are we? And are we doing our mission according to the scripture? Because all of us supposedly look at the Bible as our authority.
Sure.
And therefore we can come from that premise, which is a common premise, which is a common ground for everybody, and find out then, are we applying ourselves according to the scripture? If we are not, then we could put a mechanism in place where certain people can be rebuked and can be corrected so that we avoid these excesses of false teachings like what we had at Shakahola.
All right. You were actually making a joke before you went on air that you've escaped the high taxes in the country. And as a country, we've witnessed the rise in cost of living and the skyrocketing fuel prices. I mean, what's your word to Kenyans? How do they keep hope alive in this time?
I think when tough times come, they say the tough get going on. And for those of us who are believers, we have an opportunity to call on God to give us the strength and the capacity to live within these very tough times that we are in. And we need to continue to pray for our nation, because I don't think it is just Kenya that is going through this recession. I think these are backdrop or backlash of the COVID season that every one of us went through during the COVID season. And so as we try to recover ourselves and get back to our normal selves, I think we need to be patient and probably also downsize what we can downsize. The government should also try to regulate how much they are doing with the little that they have. So like in a home where if you know the budget is very tight, you tighten your belt. So they need to also tighten their belt in terms of how much they are consuming, how much debt they are bringing into the country. Because again, we don't want to live a life that we cannot afford. I always believe in the principle of living within your means. Yeah, cut your coat according to your size.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, Bishop, their transitions are never easy. And many people could be undergoing transitions right now, just as yourself. I mean, what's your word of advice to anyone who is maybe undergoing transition in any area of their life?
I would suggest 4 things. Number 1 is you need to have direction. And I'm going to put them in 4 Ds. Where are you headed to? What do you want to achieve? And that in itself gives you a proper perspective and a proper direction of what you want to do. And so if you're moving from stage A to stage B, you want to know, how do I do this? And how do I get there? So that direction, having vision, having purpose, really shapes your motivation and your commitment to that goal. And then secondly, I would say the second D is determination. And determination brings us to the place where we are saying there is nothing that comes easy. Not everything just comes on a silver platter. You'll have to work hard. You'll have to determine how you want to get to where you want to go. And you have to have the right frame of mind. And so you need to be determined that I'm going to make it. I'm going to move from this to what I want to be. There may be, again, a lot of things that could easily curtail or want to sabotage that purpose that you want to achieve. And so you have to be determined and avoid being sidetracked, which brings me to the third D, which is discipline. Avoid situations or people who may want to detour you from your course of life or from your moving from one thing into the next. And so you want to be very focused. You want to be very objective. How do I get where I want to go? And what are the things that I need to offload off my life that would deter me from getting to where I want to go? And then I think the fourth D, which is definitely obvious, depend on God.
Depend on
God.
God.
Don't just look at yourself and think that you have everything that it takes to move into life. The Bible says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, if you read from verse 5 and 6, that in all your ways, do not lean on your own understanding. Acknowledge God, and He will make your paths straight.
So the direction, determination, discipline, and depend on God. Now, as you conclude, I'm sure you are a friend of hope.
Sure, I am.
What's your word to the Hope Media audience on the current Friends of Hope campaign, Rafiki Mso?
We should get on board. This is a great ministry that touches many lives, that has transformed many people. I have been part of this over the years that I've served with Christ is the Answer Ministries with questions and answers. I've also done other programs on church online. And also, I would want to suggest that if you want to leave, then you need to watch these programs and support it, because these are programs that need your resources. I would want to look at myself as a roaming ambassador now for these Friends of Hope.
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe this is going to be your last interview in the Kenyan soil before you fly to the US.
Most probably, because on Thursday I'll be out of here.
Yeah. So what's your parting shot?
My parting shot is let us fix our eyes on Jesus, who is the author and the perfecter of our faith. And the one who has begun the good work of faith in us, he will bring it to accomplishment. And so whatever else that you do in life, make sure that Christ is at the center of it, because again, he tells us that we can do all things through him who strengthens us. He also guarantees us that he will never leave us, neither forsake us. So long as the presence of God is with you, you will reach your goal and you will have a fulfilled life.
All right. I hope this is not just a goodbye bite. I see you
Yeah,
soon.
definitely.
In the future.
We will come back home. This remains home for us. And so once in a while, we would want to come back and also be with our children who are not able to travel and be with us there.
Yeah.
And so I just want to thank God for the privilege and opportunity to have served with the Christ is the Answer Ministries, and also through, by extension, Hope Media, both on radio and TV. I think this has been a great privilege of just being able to impact lives far and wide beyond our limited space in our assemblies.
And many thanks to you for actually helping us understand how to manage transitions. And thank you so much for your time, and all the best to you and your family as you make this huge transition.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That has been Bishop Ken Kimiywe, the outgoing senior pastor of CITAM Ngong. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Kennedy Kimani, and Boniface Murithi has been my co-presenter on the sign language interpretation.